your pony knowledge by. Oh, better. I got a place where winning ain't tough to do. You wanna be cool? StableDuel. Your horse racing fantasy comes true. But no, StableDuel.
Download the StableDuel app and play today.
We're going to be all over the place today. That StableDuel schedule, that menu, fellas, is even bigger today as we dive in to Friday. We've got Matt Desantis. We've got Barry, the sniper, Spears here alongside with me, Gino Bacola. It is March Madness, fellas. It's a great time in the world of sports. We got a fun Friday ahead. We've got Gulfstream, Tampa, Laurel, and Santa Anita all as options for us on Friday. And on Saturday, Gulfstream, Laurel, Santa Anita, Sam Houston. We're going to be all over the place this weekend. And before we even get in, got to give a shout out to our guy, Barry Spears. Fantastic work last weekend out at Tampa Bay Downs, my man. Tell us a little bit about how that experience was for you.
Oh, man, it was fantastic. Had a great time. The weather wasn't that great, but we made it through. Had some technical issues we overcame, but it was fun, and I think I'm going to be able to do it again. So
that's great.
Yeah,
well, you keep giving out 23-1 winners in the last race. I mean, you can keep doing it forever.
Right. What I love is that what was great is that you stayed very true to form in that you're someone who doesn't pick chalk. You can't go on a show like that and get nervous and think that you're on TV or you're in a bigger spot and then start picking chalk because you want to come off and I want to pick more winners, right? I don't want to go 0-4. You don't do that because that's not the way that you play. That's not the way that you're really supposed to play, right? Even if you went 0 for the whole day, you stayed true to yourself and you got rewarded at the end of the day because you did so. That's what I liked.
Yeah, I ended up hitting 3 winners. I think $15, $22, and then that last one that paid $49. So, 3 out of 12. You figure the strike rate is okay if the prices are like that. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's what's so nice. It's one of the reasons why I like playing baseball also as like a gambler, because I always bet underdogs. Like in anything, I'm always betting money line underdogs. Everything I play. So in baseball, when teams are like laying, I never bet the -200 teams. I'm always playing the +150s, the +200s. And so I can hit at 49% or 50 or 51% and actually make money. Whereas other people have to hit it 56, 57% to turn that profit when you're playing the same thing in sports. It's like we're doing in racing. Yep. And that's why I love these shows, what we do every week with you, because for StableDuel, we're never trying to lead you to horses that are going to cost you a whole bunch of your bankroll. We're trying to find horses that are a little bit more outside the box, that might be horses that weren't on your radar initially. So Barry's always going to do that for you. Anytime you see Barry out at a track or helping out with some handicapping, we're really proud, man. I was so happy to see you out there. You did a fantastic job. So keep up the great work.
Thank you.
But like always, man, we live in a what have you done for me lately world. We gotta get right back into the races for today. I mean, you were fantastic last week, but that's old news, man. We got to make some money this weekend and today. So Barry, I've got Gulfstream for Friday pulled up. Do you have any Gulfstream Friday stuff?
Of course.
I knew
Starting race 4 and race 5.
Okay.
I'm already seeing some Barry overlap.
Okay. So let's see race number 4. We've got 62.50 non-winners of 2 claimers here. Tell us which direction we're going.
I'm going to go with number 2, Kenya Sun at 12-1 morning line. This is an interesting race only because, you get these lower level claimers and it's very tough to figure out who's going to run today. You can see all the past performances you want and look, and it's very, very difficult to try to figure out, who's just going to pop today for whatever reason. There's a myriad of reasons these cheap horses just, show, speed one time and just never do it again and things like that. So it's hard to take a short price in races like this unless they're just completely stand out. And I don't see that in this race. And this is a kind of a bigger field too, which makes it even better. But as far as Kenya Sun, I like the fact that this horse is cutting back in distance off of a layoff. And this is actually the higher price of two horses that this trainer has in the race. And I want to say that the other one is the favorite. Yes, the
Yeah,
four,
Yaguita Queen. Yeah.
Yaguita Queen.
Yep.
And that horse shows a lot of speed. I think there's going to be a mad scramble up front, and this horse, cutting back in distance doesn't necessarily have to be on the lead. Although she has shown speed earlier, like back in September, showed speed when she broke her maiden for 12.5. Had some time, ran two pretty good races at this level, and got some time off. Now coming back, I think this is a better spot. 12-1, is only 750 in StableDuel, so you should get your money's worth here.
Love it. So Matt, you said was it the 5th race that you had one the same, or was it 4th too?
I had 4 and 5, so we can
Okay,
stay
tell
in
us where we're
4
headed
if
here.
you want.
Okay.
So I think Gino, you can get the pipes ready. So I'm going to go with the number 7, Gaga Ooh La La. So
you're right.
and so.
Oh no, you're scratched. You're scratched.
Oh, did I scratch? All right. Well, then
Oh.
we can just. Well, then here's. Why don't you move up to race 3 then, real fast, because that's
Okay,
where
cool.
I have one there.
Okay, so let's see if we've got some overlap because I've got one in
Oh.
race. I've got one in race number 3. So
All
maybe
right.
maybe Matt and I are seeing the same thing.
Yeah. So
I'm
I'm going to go with the number 3 horse in race 3, True Jedi.
Okay, I'm right next to you. We're
Oh,
next
man.
to each other. We've got
That one didn't make the cut.
Jedi. Tell us why you're going to be swinging that stick around there like Obi-Wan and Grogu.
Yeah, so this is a race where I'm not overwhelmed by the favorite Phillipsburg. I mean, it's a Wesley Ward horse with Irado on board, but you look, some of those workouts have been really erratic. This is also a horse stepping up from a maiden optional claimer to a maiden special weight, so I just have some questions there. True Jedi's 8-1 is going to cost you $3,000. There's a lot to like about this horse. This horse, has a little bit of turf pedigree. The works on turf have looked really solid. Additionally, this is a horse who's getting Jose Ortiz aboard. When he and Christopher Davis work together, they're winning at a 60% clip. Granted, it's a small N, so to speak. But I think in a race where not a lot jumps out at me, I think this is a horse at True Jedi at 8-1 who can give you something. And listen, Jose is likely going to have his choice of several different horses in this race. And the fact that he chose to ride this one, I think probably says something about what he thinks about the horse. I know a lot of people take his opinion very seriously, with how horses work in the mornings and things like that. So I just think this was a horse that gives you a little bit of value. And in a race where I'm just not really sold on the favorites, and for $3,000, if this horse comes in third, that's still a win. I mean, you're still getting, pretty nice return on investment in terms of points, but I think this horse could easily, win this race potentially, or at least finish second. So I like True Jedi there.
So I'm right next to you, and we both attack we always attack similar races. And the one thing that you'll notice is when Barry and I and Matt are usually picking horses in the same race or the same horses, the one constant is we don't like the favorites there.
Yeah.
Right. It's that in those races, we think those races are where the short price. So even if we lose, those are maybe hints that you can take from us as races to signal to where maybe there's a vulnerable favorite, or maybe those are races that are worth playing. Even if that horse wins, if you feel they're vulnerable, that's what it's all about, right? Those horses are going to win sometimes, but feeling like you have a legitimate shot against them. And that's why I'm in here too. I look at the 2 Nonay Franklin. Yeah. So this race is going 5 furlongs on the turf course against maiden special weights. What was the career debut? 5 furlongs on the turf against maiden special weights. This horse had a slow start and missed by a neck that day. Then they stepped up and they faced Stakes Company. That race was taken off the grass and it was going 7.5, or it was going 7 furlongs. That was in September. Then they went to the bench from September to January, came back in January, and that race was at 7.5 again. And he ran well. He was a field of 12. He was sort of involved throughout, but he just got a little bit tired. It was the exact kind of race that you would expect from a horse coming off the bench, probably needing a race, just getting a little bit tired. And then in his next start on January the 29th, he went 7 furlongs on the dirt. I just don't know if that's really what he wants to do. Yeah. I feel like 7 furlongs is probably a little beyond his scope anyways. Now you get the cut back to 5 on the turf. 3rd start off the bench, 3rd start off the form cycle. I feel like it's a great spot for Nonay Franklin in here at 6-1. That's right on that StableDuel par. That's exactly what we need with our average. 6-1, 5,000 here. No Nave Franklin, third start off the bench, getting ready to take a little bit of a step forward.
For what it's worth, the horse that didn't make the cut on this one for me was Smoking Bow. I went back to the well. I think the horse is it's gonna
Oh
pop.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our old buddy.
Yeah.
Give him you give him an excuse last. That was a bad trip last.
Bad trip, and it got claimed. Positive rider switch here too.
Major. It's just one of those things where it's like, just with Saez jumping aboard, the horse is going to get some money and be a positive, and you'll probably get value, right? You'll probably pay for an 8-1 shot that's like 5-1 or 4-1 or something. So
I think that's what you're going to see with all three of those choices. I think Jose aboard is going to drive down the price. I think No Name Franklin to me was the obvious kind of pick as well. I thought, and I think people are going to go against the favorite here.
Awesome. Let's get to race number 5 is where I've got one. And I think, Barry, you said you've got one in the 5th race.
I got one there too.
Absolutely. I got a feeling that we're going to land on the same horse.
I think so too.
I really like number
Barry?
7, the 7 horse Chitien.
Okay, Barry's on the 7.
Okay.
I'm right next door.
Oh, really? Next door higher or next door lower? Either way, it's 20-1s.
I'm Gam, baby. I'm Gam. And
All right.
Yeah, I mean this race is another one. It's just like it's up for grabs. These state bid races. I really don't understand how Sadie Bear is 7-5 on the line. I mean, I can see that horse being favored, but 7-5 seems a little short. But I like that first race by Chitien. I mean, coming off of that has a steady stream of works. Eddie Police is going good right now. He does well with Julian aboard, and getting the blinkers on, I think, really is what made the difference for me. That Hot Peppers race where she was actually favored, it seems to be a little bit live. Hot Peppers came out of that and won. So, we're at a stage, especially, second time out, where this horse is probably going to run better than the first time. And I just think this is the right spot, considering all the first timers in here.
I mean, I'm looking at Gam Joanne, who debuted, and it was going 5 furlongs on the turf in an open race, and the horse just had a brutal start, and that was it. Like, missed the break, going 5, showed a little bit of late interest. What's interesting is there've been a couple kind of even the 3 furlong, it's just a blowout, but it's like there've been a couple of them that sort of tip your hand that there's a little something, and then Irad jumps.
Irad shows up there.
It's a small barn, like a barn that he just does. It's not like for a big barn. That's just really sneaky or strange to me. And we don't know. This horse may not be any good, right? This horse may not have any talent at all. But in a StableDuel standpoint, I feel like this horse is going to open up in first click, be at least like half of that morning line. Probably
less
be like
than half.
8-1, 6-1, right? Just with the Irad factor. And so for having to pay, $250 for this horse at 20-1, I mean, you're barely spending anything on this horse in your StableDuel lineup. So
take 2.
I think it gives you an opportunity. Yeah. In the way that today's races are set up, there's only 9 races. So there's going to be one spot where you're going to have to take 2, and maybe it's here. Maybe you double up with Barry 7 or Matt, who is the horse that you like in here.
Or you could triple up and go with the 3 horse. Read a book. So, no, I think this is, Gino, like you just said in the previous one, we're attacking the favorite here, and I think for good reason. And I think the other thing is, if you look, the other, I think the other first-time starter that might be pretty strong is the number 1 horse, but I hate the inside post position for a debut horse, particularly in a sprint. And so I just, So I'm on the number 3, Read a Book. Out of the first time starter, it is, and out of the first time starters, I like this horse a lot. The works have been really strong leading up to this race. Showed a lot of speed. Had some nice gate works as well. So getting out obviously in a sprint is going to be critical. So I thought there was just something to like there. It's interesting. The trainer doesn't win very often, but is often competitive, gets a lot of horses to finish underneath. So only has like a 3% strike rate, but hits the board at about a 35% rate. So you do see quite a difference there. And for a horse that's 10-1 is only going to cost you $1,000. That's again a minimal investment. With if this horse hits the board, that's a positive return on investment from a StableDuel standpoint.
Yep.
So I like the 3 Rita book here. I think there's just a chance. In this race, there's a lot of horses that are first-time starters or moving up from maiden claimers, maiden optional claimers, so moving up in class a little bit. I just think, as we all have pointed out, there's a lot of variability in this race, so you might as well go for a cheap, inexpensive play because there's really not a sure thing in this race.
Yeah, I think the one thing that we can take away is that we don't like the favorite here, and it's probably like a spread race in the pick 4s and pick 5s.
Yeah, absolutely. Race number 5 on Friday at Gulfstream Park. Now, I've got one in the 8th and the 9th to take a look at while we're at Gulfstream Park. Does anybody else have any others to look at for Gulfstream?
No, okay. But I will say that my dad just texted me his stable lineup because that's what he does on Friday mornings.
I love that.
And you will be glad to know that he has both None Franklin and Kenya Sun.
Okay.
So
there you go.
So
he
knows what's up.
Ringing endorsements.
Just combinations of everything, right? Combine them all. So I thought about throwing in the 3 Miss Michaela. If I was playing like exotics, I probably would. Delgado's excellent. First start off the claim, and Saez jumps aboard there. I like the 5 Viva La Red a little bit. Just feels like a horse who had always sort of shown some ability, and I think you can go through each of this filly's races, and in a lot of the races where she didn't win or didn't run all that great, you can make legitimate excuses and see why. Like you can go, oh, okay, sprinting on the turf, that wasn't really what they wanted. Then they went long on the main at Gulfstream, and that race was a really tough race, and she missed the break that day. She completely stumbled. And then you see the improvement start, like last year and about a year ago in like February of 2021. Okay, she's 4th there. Then she takes a nice step up and she's 3rd. Then she's off from March to September. She comes back in September. She probably needs the race. The race comes back really live, and she's in the slop. Then in October, you just see improvement. You see gradual improvement. The race in November, legitimate excuse you can put a line through. Think in the December race, the mile and a 3/16, and the mile and a half are just going a little bit too long. So I know sometimes it's hard because a horse loses 3 or 4 times, and then you just want to say, oh, they're not that good. But you have to be able to dig into each race and ask why. What happened? Was there a legitimate excuse? Was there something? Was that not the right shape? Was that too far? Was that not the right surface? I think for Viva La Red, going like a mile to a mile and a 16th on the dirt, those races have all been pretty good that she's had when you dig into them. 2 back, she won. She broke her maiden. And when you dig into the races last year at the end at Gulfstream Park, those were the ones where she was starting to show some improvement, and then she was sent to the bench for a while. So she's 6-1 on the morning line. It's not the biggest field in the world either. So maybe a nice spot where you can get some points here, as long as you just don't run like off the board or just a terrible effort, but a little versatility, a little tactical speed, but probably more of like a mid-pack closer. Viva La Red for me in race number 8, fellas. And then got one bomb to take a look at in the 9th.
Like bombs. We like bombs.
Yeah, take a look at this bomb. Let's take a look at the 5 in here. T Waltz. So T Waltz is just getting back to the turf.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at this horse's turf form.
Yeah.
For a 20-1 shot. The turf debut going 5 sprinting was pretty solid. Then they broke their maiden, and then they came right back off the bench, and they hadn't run from April of 2021 to January of 2022 and finished 3rd in that race, and kind of inside and sneaky. Since that effort, you go on the synthetic at Gulfstream and then the dirt at Gulfstream Park, and the 3 best races this filly has ever run have by far been on the turf, and she's 20-1. I think it's a really nice spot in StableDuel where if you're just playing her off of her turf victory, her 64 turf winning buyer is like one of the better like recent numbers. And I'm not someone who just plays off of that, but it's just like as a measuring stick. So a couple nice prices and some possibilities on Friday at Gulfstream Park. Do we have any Friday? Santa Anita, Tampa, anywhere else for you guys on Friday?
Santa Anita.
Santa
Yep,
Anita. Let's go to Santa Anita for Friday. Barry, tell us where you want to head for Friday for Santa Anita.
Race 5.
Okay, race 5, Santa Anita for Friday. And who we looking at in the 5th?
We're looking at number 1, Carpe Bellum.
Oh, I'm on the same one. I love it. Love it.
Yeah. I mean, this race seems a little bit devoid of speed.
Absolutely, right? They got to send from the inside.
Exactly. Blinkers on, for this event, and I think that the two 6 furlong races in the stretch out is a really good angle, and especially for Brian Corner, he does this quite a bit.
Yep.
And he has success doing it. Drayden is actually riding very, very well with the limited opportunities he's been getting.
Agree.
So I'm thinking he's going to have the wherewithal to understand that he's going to have to go. There's really not much pace in here, and he can be the controlling speed and kind of take him as long as he wants to go.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see too much in here in general. I mean, the favorite does look okay, but I mean, you can't trust a horse like that in a spot like this.
Yeah.
So this is very ripe for an opportunity for somebody to just, kind of step up. I don't think this horse is actually going to get played a lot.
I don't either.
I think that we're going to be pretty close around that price. So this is a really good play, as far as pick 5s in StableDuel. This is definitely a horse that I'm going to key in on.
Yep, and Carpe Bellum, a couple small things like the dam of this one going long on the synthetic, so should be a little bit better going longer than this horse was sprinting. Both of the races off a little bit slow, and so I think they're going to, with the blinkers on, they're going to be a little bit more focused on getting this horse out of the gate quickly from the inside. And then the 2 races that Carpe Bellum exits, they're actually pretty good races. The winner of that race, Don't Swear Dave, is a multiple winner now, and he's stakes placed. 3 starts back, he was in the baffle. He had legitimate trouble in that Pasadena, so much that they wheeled him back 7 days later because they just wanted to get him back in the winner's circle off that troubled trip. You actually have Epic, who was in that race, who came out to win a maiden special weight in the next start with an 83 Beyer speed figure. Even a horse like Win the Day came back to win, but just not next out, right? But this is a nice horse. It just took 2 starts for Win the Day to win. War at Sea is another one who just won, but it wasn't the next out race. So you don't see the italics in there, but this was a really strong race because Don't Swear Dave has come back to win the Day, and War at Sea and Epic have all come back to win since. So they're just not the more recent slap you in the face italics,
Right.
I like this spot. 2 sprints to a route, blinkers on, dams likes going longer, races come back productive. Carpe Bellum seize the carp, Carpe Bellum here in race number 5 for me and Barry. Matt, tell us one of the spots you want to head to on Friday at Santa Anita.
Yeah, we'll go back 1 race to race 4, and we'll take a look, which is a $25,000 claimer, 6 furlongs on the turf. We'll go to the number 1 horse, Mucha Woman. This is a horse that is going off at 8 to 1. Is going to cost you $3,000 on the StableDuel.
It's my racing club. It's the GNO Racing Club.
There you go. Yeah. So this is I like this horse a lot, actually. So this is a horse that is 5 for 8 hitting the board at this distance. Struggled last time out at 7 furlongs, but prior to that had really put together, I think, a pretty nice string of respectable performances and really consistent Beyer speed figures. So, if you just draw a line through that last 7 furlong, you're looking at seconds, thirds, and, an occasional fourth, seconds, a lot of thirds, a lot of hitting the board. Now we're shortening back up to 6 furlongs, which is clearly what this horse prefers. And so I just think, for this, field, it's pretty nice. This is a horse that also outran the second favorite in this race, Swirling, a few back. So, has gone up against similar horses and actually performed better. Nothing really scares me here as well. Tis a Master is stepping up against more expensive fields. Too Much Heaven is a turf horse. Like I said, Swirling has been defeated by Mucha Woman before. I think you look at Abel Cedillo and Doug O'Neill teaming up on this horse. I like that combination a lot in this spot. I think, both are winning independently, and they both win well when they team up. So I just think this is a horse that, has performed at really, consistently at a lot of different levels at this $25,000 claimer. I feel like this is a horse that is probably a little undervalued at 8-1. The inside post always is a little bit of a question mark, I think, coming in sprints, but I still think it's worth a shot for $3,000 on StableDuel. So I have Mucho Woman in race 4.
Mucho Woman for Matt. I played this horse a couple times too, and I think it was the 2 back when I needed Mucho Woman, and that's why I was kind of smirking about 10 plus to 1. I was like, oh man, she raced well that day. She fits. Yeah. She's a nice StableDuel horse to include.
That's the thing. I don't know if she's going to win, but she's a nice StableDuel horse. Exactly. I feel like, yeah. You
feel like you'll get a good run for your money there. I've got one a little earlier on the card, so let's go back in time a bit to race number 2, and we'll shift to the outside with Team Concept. Now, there are a couple things I wanted to look at with Team Concept. Carla Gaines is a fantastic trainer. I think she does a really great job. One thing that is a notable weakness for her, and I think it's not like I'm like not critiquing or anything. They're just not good with first-time starters, period. Like, they don't try to get them to win. This is Carla Gaines' numbers with first-time starters recently. 3 for 92.
Yeah.
So, which is, and let's think about this. Carla Gaines has nice horses. She gets good stock. So it's not as if the horses she gets aren't capable of winning. That's just her style. That really shows you that even with the really nice horses and the good horses, she's not cranking them up in the mornings. And that's a positive thing. Every trainer will do things a little differently, but I actually like this style more, where you let horses sort of run themselves into shape, and it takes a couple races to get fit, but then they really figure it out. Sometimes you crank them too hard in the morning and they don't even get to the afternoons, right? And then that's when the injuries come in, or we don't get to see the longevity here. Now, when you flip this to second time starting, it's not as if it's incredible, her numbers with second time starters versus first time starters, but it's like double. And now we're starting, she was 3% with first time starters. She's much more capable with second. And then it starts just gradually becoming more exponential with each, right, Matt? We get like second, third time starters. They just get a little bit better with experience. So I'm looking at Barry, our buddy, says he has a scoot, but he has one more play today at Santa Anita. So we'll show you that one in just a moment. Always nice for Barry checking in with us. I think he had to do dad duty today.
Yes,
right?
He had dad duty. Yeah.
So that's always the most important thing. That always comes first. So always great to have Barry checking in with us today. Team Concept is a horse who I just think is going to be a little bit better now with this experience, Matt, with that race under the belt. And then when we watched the race from Team Concept last time out, to me, it was exactly the type of race that you see from a horse who needs the race. Team Concept is the 3 in here, and it wasn't a big field or anything. It was just a field of 6. Team Concept, kind of an okay start, but then you see this is going to in a little bit tight there. We'll sort of sit third in the 3 path. So not in a bad spot, like nice kind of tactical speed. Gets caught a little bit in between horses here, so has to kind of back up out of the spot. And then at this point, maybe gets outrun a little bit by some of the faster, quicker sprinters. But just kind of watching this race all the way through, and then adding the blinkers, adding the stretch out, knowing that this barn is much better first time out. See, now that's not a great spot to be in, right? You're kind of backed out of it, and you're kind of in between horses, but you still kind of stick your nose through there, and you still continue to battle on. And so like right now, it kind of feels like the 3 is just completely done and going to back up. But I think I sort of like the energy that this horse shows down towards the inside, like right about here, starts to get into a decent stride down towards the rail. And right here, I thought, oh, this horse's ears actually kind of perk up.
Yeah.
Down on the inside. I thought this wasn't a bad effort, as the 2 and the winner just draws off and wins this race by 10.
Yeah.
So now when you look back and you see the Team Concept was 4th in this race, beaten 10, but almost second.
Right. It was a photo.
Right,
I mean,
right in the 3-way photo for second.
Yeah.
I
No,
like
and I think there's, your point earlier about, I think this is an important thing that people, especially because a lot of times you, me, and Barry attack maiden races, and because that's where we find a lot of value. And that's one thing I don't live or die by trainer stats, but the trainer stat you pointed out is one of the few that I put a ton of stock in, which is how do they do first time out? How do they do second time out? Like those are really important stats because you're right. Some barns and some trainers just don't put a ton of stock in. I need to fire first time out with this horse.
Yep.
And they let the horse run into shape and they kind of let the horse tell them what type of horse they're going to be in terms of the distance, sometimes even in terms of surface, in terms of riding style. So it's going to take a couple horses, or it's going to take a couple races sometimes for a horse to kind of discover, or the trainer maybe even to figure out what type of horse this is going to be and spot them effectively. So I always think looking at that, like, second time out stat is always something that's really important for me because it says something about knowing where to place the horse next and knowing what's the most effective. If we're going to stay at this distance, or we're going to stay at this class, or we're going to stay, what are we going to do? So yeah, I like that play a lot with Team Concept.
Team Concept. I've got one more at Santa Anita for Friday. Do you have any others while we're at Santa Anita?
I do. I have one in the very last race, actually. So if depending on
Okay,
if you want to go, okay.
So do I. Okay.
So I'm going with number 2, Echo Smith.
Okay, we're not on the same one.
Okay,
All right. Not Echo Smith. Who
Yes.
I will say I do have picked second in this race. So
yep. And that's exactly kind of why I'm playing the horse. It's 8-1, $3,000. So it's a horse that if it still finishes second, great. Like you're still doing well in StableDuel. This is a horse that made its debut in North America, has run 2 consecutive stakes races right off the boat, so to speak. And so really kind of went right into the deep end, actually outran the favorite Smuggler's Run in the Baffle Bowl 2-back. Blinkers are getting added, first time getting Lasix, also getting a weight allowance because he's got an apprentice jock, Diego Herrera, who's a 12% winner. So a lot of things I like about kind of the advantages I feel like Echo Smith is finally getting here. The works look really solid, and I even made a note, comment in my notes here that said I'm okay with this horse getting beat, but he'll run well out, and he's always run well outside of his debut, and so he's always been very competitive. I feel like even when he gets beat, it's always by a very close margin. He's never that far off the pace. Yep. So I just think this is a really good horse who's getting a lot of things added and being put in maybe a little bit of an easier spot than he did in his first 2 North American starts. So I like Echo Smith here for $3,000 on 8-1 in race 9.
Echo Smith for Matt. I'm going to go to the outside. Shut up, Michael. Shut up, Michael. Okay.
Yep.
So let's take a look at Shut Up Michael's last race, in which Shut Up Michael actually finished a very good third in here. He was the 5 in this race, and he's going to be coming down the hill. So they won't be going down the hill here. They'll just be going the 6 furlongs. So he's the 5. And so right here, he's sitting in about 4th, 5th, kind of in between horses, and not a bad spot. But now he starts to kind of, I think he moves a little early right here. Because what ends up happening, the horse to the inside of him starts to go, and the 5 kind of takes off with him, right? You see the 3 starts to move, and then Shut Up Michael takes off with him. And so now you're right up on heels. Now you're in between horses, and we can see in the overhead, he's in between, he's right up on heels, and he's got nowhere to go. He's just waiting.
Yep.
He's just at the mercy of the race shape. Now the 3s kind of beat him to the spot, so now the 5 got to back out of that spot a little bit. So now Michael is just kind of waiting again, nowhere to go. He's behind the 4. He's trapped. He's got a little bit of an opening. Nope, that closes.
Yeah.
He's going to try to hit it, and it's not there. Now he ducks back down to the inside, but it's a little bit too late at this point.
It's a tough spot. Yeah.
He was kind of waiting. Now he moves inside, and he actually stretches his legs pretty well when he moves through. But the flow to the outside was so much more clear. Those 2 that were moving, they didn't have to stop at all. And he's kind of waiting, and then he moves to hit the hole, and then the hole closes, and he has to wait again, and then he kind of ducks down. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's not easy to do. And so I'm on Shut Up Michael. Shut up, Michael. I feel like you gotta say it that way.
What always impresses me about horses is when they can make that move on the inside, because
Right?
that's not easy.
So
And a lot of horses get a little timid, and to see a horse be able to stretch its legs out and pass horses on the inside in a tight spot is always something that I make note of, because that shows a lot from the horse, that the horse is not scared to be in a tight spot in some instances.
Okay, so let's show before we move on.
Oh yeah.
Let's show Barry's horse from Friday first, real quick. We'll take a look at Barry's in the 8th race that he mentioned, and then we'll jump into Saturday. What's cool? We're gonna take a little look at Laurel for Saturday.
Yes,
I got a couple for Laurel. I think I got one or two at Gulfstream and Santa Anita, so we can kind of bounce around. For those three, and each give a play or two there. Shout out to Barry with. Hold on, let's get this. He likes Bobby Daniels here in race number 7 or race number 8 on Friday, a little later on the card. So Barry is on the number 9, Bob Daniels, who I got to say, I almost went to Bob Daniels here myself. And you can see a lot of the reasons why, right?
Yep.
This horse was running in races that have come back productive. He was behind Hockey Dad standing. A couple next out winners. That was a race that you can probably put a line right through. Comes back and he's behind Let's Get Lucky in a much tougher spot. Then he hooks Mucho del Oro next out winner. And then he doesn't race from April all the way to February. And then he shows up in the Jonathan Wong barn for the first time in a race that he absolutely needs. And he's a step slow there. Feels like a great spot for a horse at 6-1.
Yep, I agreed. I mean, this is a horse that, and the one thing I like about this horse, I mean, you mentioned the real long layoff and the fact the horse still kind of fired pretty well. At least when this horse has cut back in class, you've seen this horse progress, because sometimes you'll see horses go from maiden special weights to maiden claimers and nothing changes. This horse clearly is a decent horse that should get a win at this level, I feel like. And today's a good day. Today's a good day for it.
Good luck to Barry the Sniper with Bobby Daniels there. Let's jump into Saturday. You want to head to Laurel first?
Yeah, let's do Laurel first. That's cool.
Yeah, we don't get the chance to check in with Laurel all that much. They have a couple stakes races on their card. They've got some StableDuel games to play. So Matt, tell us where you want to look for Laurel Park for Saturday.
Well, first, I'll just say very briefly, in case people don't play Laurel very often, it's a track that's, this is actually one of the few times I can talk about the track, because I actually live like an hour from it. Awesome. And so I will say, if people going through the past performances, the two big name local trainers are John Robb, who's winning at a 39% clip, and Brittany Russell, who wins at a 26% clip. Brittany's got a horse actually over in the Middle East running this weekend. Wonder where Craig is. And so, those are kind of the two big names. But if you go through, you'll notice, it's not uncommon to see Asmussen horses, Bill Mott horses, Rudy Rodriguez, Graham Motion, Michael Trombetta, Jamie Ness.
Familiar names.
Very familiar names. So even if this is a track you don't play very often, there's probably a lot of names on here you do know. And so it's a lot of stuff. If you have certain trainer profiles you like or don't like, it's important to point that out. I'm going to go to the number 9 race a little later in one of the stakes races, which is the Beyond the Wire Stakes, which is 1 mile on dirt. And I'm doing this for two reasons. One, I absolutely love the favorite, Luna Bell, who's going off at even money. But from a StableDuel perspective, it's just nuts to spend $10,000 on a horse. Yeah. But this is a horse, just personally speaking, I absolutely love.
Big fan of.
The first time I ever met Barry, he and I handicapped the Maryland Millions Day together several months ago, and I was on this horse that day. And she just, the jockey thought he was Pat Day and was trying to, come through, from way in the back. But there was a jockey change. They finally figured out this horse wanted a little bit more distance. And she's been just lights out ever since then, has won 3 stakes races in a row. So big fan of her. But for StableDuel, this is actually a great race to play, because if you look underneath, there's nothing but value. Oh. And so, even if you catch a second place, you're not paying much for it. So this is one where I actually kind of like Ha Penny, the number 3 horse. It's 8-1, $3,000. This is a horse that is a little bit of a new shooter on the scene. So that's something I always kind of like to see, because a lot of these Laurel horses will run against each other regularly and quite frankly, usually have the same results. And so This is a horse that can definitely do the distance. It's important to point out Luna Bell is stretching out to a mile for the first time. So too is She Is Whiskey, who's kind of the second or third favorite, who she ran against before. So Ha Penny can do the distance. That's not a problem. Also, this is a horse that's been running in stakes races down in Tampa, not taking a step up. Ran against Nest to last time out. I mean, that's a very good filly. So, has run against some really nice competition coming into this spot. I just think this is a horse that, can for 8-1, $3,000, even if you think Luna Bell, like I'm hoping, wins just because I root for that horse, I really think Ha Penny is a nice play underneath. Even if it gets you second place points, 38 points or something like that for a $3,000 horse. It's a great return on investment.
Ha Penny at Laurel in the 9th. For Matt, I'm going to go back in time a bit to race number 7 at Laurel, and I'm going to look at the number 6 in here, Air Token, who is 5-1. So this is about as short as I'll even ever want to give out, or so. I usually won't want to go shorter than this, but I mean, I'm just looking at Air Token. He was 3-1 in the Grade 3 General George last time.
Yeah.
And he's 5-1 in this state bred race.
Yep.
In this Maryland bred race. I just don't, I have a hard time with that, just like in the most basic sense. So I think like you dig into some of his races, he has legitimate excuses.
Yep.
He broke great. So let's show you the race. Like he broke great in this last start. He was just so wide. He's the 7 in here. He breaks fine, and then he's taken back, and he's 5 deep, and he's 5 off. So look, he's on top right here, the 7.
Yep.
And now they just decide not to go because others from the inside want to go.
Yep.
But he ends up getting caught when everybody sort of settles. He ends up in the back of the pack in the 5 path when another horse drops back. And so he was on the lead when they started. How do you go from being on the lead naturally to like being 4 to 5 deep in the back? And now you have to make this sort of wide move just to get up into contention. And you're chasing the top 2 finishers, War Toxin and Cordmaker. Look at where they're positioned.
Yep.
Inside and right on the lead.
Yep.
So you're giving up all the ground in the world. You went from the front back to the front while they just sat there. I think that's a legitimate excuse and this was going 7 furlongs. Yep. Now we're going to cut back to 6 furlongs today. The last 2 times Air Token was in the winner's circle, 2 starts back, going 6 furlongs, earning a 92 buyer speed figure, beating Baracho that day. Baracho, who came out of that race to win, and we're going to see in a lot of the other running lines, Baracho won very impressively in his next 2 starts, earning a 97 buyer speed figure in one of them. So Air Token, he's not 20-1 like I like to give out normally. He's going to cost you $6,000, which isn't all that much, really, just a little bit more than the average. But again, he was 3-1, 2 starts last time out against Graded Stakes Company, and in here he's 5 on the morning line. So I think it's just from a value-based standpoint, a good spot.
I agree. I remember that race really well, actually. So I like that play a lot.
So I've got one in the 10th today at Laurel. Where else do you have?
Yeah, go to the 10th because I have one in the 11th.
Okay,
so we
cool.
can go chronologically.
Let's go 10 and we'll go to 11. So in the 10th race, this is the Private Terms. And there were actually 2 that I thought about using. I would not talk anyone off of Conclusive, the 1.
Oh, yeah.
Because he seems like a real 2-turn horse. And in reading it, that last race he didn't like as much, and it was a weird sort of race for him. The races where he's able to kind of settle a little bit more, I think he's better. But that's not the horse who I like the most in here. I wouldn't talk anyone off him. I think it's a good spot for the 8 Shake 'Em Loose. They claimed this horse for $16,000. And since then he's won a stakes race and he's been in stake against Stakes Company another time. So they claim him for 16. They step him up in $100,000 stakes at 60-1. He wins. And then he comes back on January the 29th. And honestly, it's just a brutal start. We're looking at Shake 'Em Loose here. He's the 4 in this race. And watch the beginning of this race where he just Oh,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, he's completely misses the break. He hops and he spots the field, and now you're just done, you know, trying to catch up with that group. What happens after that? He comes right back in a first level allowance race. He's still 6-1, even dropping out of stakes, and he crushes that group. Look at the form. Look at the 2 races for this barn that he's run that weren't the race he missed the break, right? Where he won the stakes and then he finished second against first level allowance company. This horse has improved a ton for these connections. He's run really well twice in a row. And the other one that he didn't run well, we have a legitimate excuse that day. Coastal Mission and Locomotive came out of that race to win. The winner that day is a horse named Witty. Witty is nice.
Yeah.
I think Witty is 3 for 4 with the second. Yeah.
Yep.
Witty just won back-to-back stakes races, and in his last 3 starts, he's absolutely dusted fields. So it's sometimes, you know, you see these horses that are in the low-level claiming ranks, and I think people see them and they're like, they're not that good. I do it sometimes too. I'm like, this horse was a claimer. They're not that great. But when you watch their races and you see how they stack up, this horse fits really well with this group.
It does. And I think that's it's one of the things that I've noticed is I think, you know, and I'm just as guilty of it as anyone, is sometimes you see horses that win a maiden claimer and then step up and you're like, how's this horse stepping up from a maiden claimer? You know, how's that going to work out? Yeah. But sometimes that horse just needs to learn how to win. And then once they learn how to win, they go, oh, this is how I do this. And the light kind of goes on. Yeah. And suddenly you see this becomes a totally different type of horse. And I think you absolutely see that. I mean, the speed figures indicate that. And, you know, how this horse, you know, once the light kind of went on, this horse kind of figured things out with the exception of that one blip.
Yep. Let's get to the 11th and final on Saturday at Laurel Park. Thanks so much for hanging out with us, folks. We appreciate you checking in with us each and every Friday. We're always going to let you know what the StableDuel schedule looks like for Friday and Saturday, all the different tracks we can play, and we'll always give out some best bets for Friday, for Saturday, for multiple tracks. I think this is the first time we've ever talked Laurel on this show.
I think it is, yeah.
Matt, so where do you want to close things out?
Well, even though he's not here, come on, you got to go to the number 5. Loaded Sniper. Come on. Where is right? Yeah, got to go with the Sniper for Barry. But in all honesty, I mean, I really like this horse. I think I like him. It's a 6-1 horse, going to cost you $5,000. Here's what I like about this horse. If you look, that race 2 back, stumbled out of the gate, just draw a line through it. It just, don't worry about that race.
Yep.
You look at every other race, this horse is hitting very consistent speed figures.
Yep.
In a field where there's not a lot of consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And this horse is turning in high 50 to mid 60 buyers every single time out. I think you look at the favorite, Silent Service, the number 4 horse, coming off a 10-month layoff. Well, that's a question mark. How's this horse going to fire coming off? That's not a short, 4, 5, 6 months, sure. 10 months, that's a question mark.
Yeah.
You look at the second favorite, Romer, the 5-2 favorite. Yeah, got out, he outfinished Loaded Sniper last time out. Also ran out of his mind. I think Romer's the 6 or 7. Right? Yeah, the 7. Ran out of its mind, ran the best speed figure of its career. In my experience, when you see that, there's typically regression the next race out. This horse has not suddenly unlocked a 70 and better buyer speed figure. This horse is probably going to go back to running in the 50s, what it was running previously.
Yep.
So when you take all of that into consideration, I think you sit there and you see a horse like Loaded Sniper who's going, hey, this is a nice spot. This is just a very consistent horse who I think I think it will end up getting a pretty nice trip here. I just think the consistency and the fact that you're only paying $5,000 for a horse that I think is probably going to be a pretty strong win candidate, has performed well at this level. So I like Loaded Sniper in race 11 to close out the card.
Loaded Sniper. We got to get the Sniper home for
Of course. Got to get him home.
Barry Spears. Shout out to the Sniper there. As we make the transition, let's go to Gulfstream.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
Let's go over to Gulfstream Park. We'll talk some Gulfstream. So where do you look for Saturday for Gulfstream Park, Matt?
Let's see. I have pretty late. I have races 10 and 12. So if you have something early,
I'm in. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm in 1 and 6. So I'll start us off, and we'll and then you'll finish us up there at Gulfstream Park. So we don't have to go far to find mine. I'm in race number 1 at Gulfstream Park, and I'm going to look to the number 7 in here, Bad Bobby. So I want to watch this race. that Bad Bobby debuted, going 5 on the synthetic. Bad Bobby is the number 3 in this race that we're going to be watching here. Now, Bad Bobby is he's the 3. So not the best of starts, right? Kind of slow. Keep in mind, you're going 5 furlongs on the synthetic here. So Bobby just not really fast towards the rear. Now you're basically all the way back towards the rear. So you're settling about 10 lengths off, about 9th of 12. We can't even see our boy Bobby on the screen quite yet. Now, he really starts to get going late. Really gets going late. On the outside, he ends up only beating a length. And what I like is that this totally looks like a horse who's going to get better with more distance. This was on the synthetic. The dam didn't win on the turf, but she ran on the turf twice. And one of them was in a stakes race where she was well beaten. The other was second in a first level allowance. Here comes the 3 now on the outside, about to jump into the picture right here. And so like, look at that real late interest from Bad Bobby. That was going 5. This horse was dead last on the inside, going 5 on the synthetic, had to go all the way inside, shift all the way around outside, closing down the middle of the track, first time out of the box. Now you stretch out, you go a little bit longer, and I'm expecting major improvement from Bad Bobby, who's got a little bit more in the turf than it looks like too. Then I like horses like that where everybody's going to know if this horse is a daughter of a dam who won a bunch of graded stakes races on the grass, right? Or if they're a direct sibling to someone who earned a couple $1 million. But I like to look that maybe they ran on the grass a few times and it's deceiving. Maybe they actually ran on it and they're kind of good, but then one of the other 2 races were in a stakes or they had an excuse. So it's there, but it's not something that maybe everybody sees right off the bat, you know? So Bobby for me, Bad Bobby.
I love it.
This feels like a softball in the horse racing world. So I'm not even going to take it.
We'll pass on that. No editorial comments today.
I was going to say that is like a little too easy. So I'm just going to move. I'm just going to move along. I like more difficult challenge.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
Let's get to race number 6 for my other play. Matt's going to have 2 plays for you at Gulfstream, and then I'm going to finish up with 1 or 2 at Santa Anita for Saturday also. So we'll bounce all around and give you a couple from each track. Wasn't this this isn't the horse that I'm playing, but wasn't this the Harry Potter? Wingardium Leviosa.
Leviosa. You're not saying it right, Ron.
It's not Leviosa. It's Leviosa. You know, shout out Hermione. Love me some Hermione. I like the deuce in here. You could look. Yeah. And I mean, the race that she comes out of last time out was really tough. The winner of that race is a filly named Sweet Danny Girl. Sweet Danny Girl came back and ran in the forward gal. And Sweet Danny Girl is nice. She just needed that race a little bit in the forward gal. She hadn't run in a few months from November to March. So I think the race that this filly exits, it was just a little bit tougher than the group she's going to be dealing with in this particular stakes race here. And you look, what did I say? You could look. It's you look cold. The hell? I was like, Slappy, Swanson, Samsonite. I was way off that one. I was like, what did I say? Yeah. You look cold. That's the name of this horse. So I think the 1, Leviosa's got some speed. I think the 3, awfully fast. The 4, One Identity, is going to want to be close up. The 5, Spirit Wind, is going to want to be forwardly placed. And the outside runner, Strategic Bird, is going to want to be forwardly placed. I feel like You Could Look is, you see some races where she's on the lead. Like her wins have been close, but she's not as fast as the rest of these. And she's going to be sitting a little bit more off this pace in here. My worry is, where she is, she could get shuffled a little bit. But if you eliminate the mile race, and you just say she didn't want to go a mile, and then the last start, well, she was in a little bit tough. We could tell she was 30-1 that day.
Right.
And that was at Keeneland. And then she was sent to the bench for a few months. So now we can probably cross out those 2 races, the Monmouth race on September 6th and the last race. And what are we left with? Oh, we're left with 2 wins.
Yep.
I feel like she sits nicely in here. Give me You Look Cold. I don't know whatever the hell I said the first time, Matt, but it was definitely
You could
not
look.
cold.
You look cold. You know, you get the idea.
It happens. It happens.
That's why we say the numbers a lot of times. Just
Exactly.
the two. You know,
Numbers, odds, everything. We figure we'll hit one of them correctly when we keep going at them. So 6-1. That's going to be right on your par for StableDuel.
Yep.
5,000. So it's nice for me. I know that from Gulfstream Park, I can already start my lineup with a 12-1 shot and a 6-1 shot. So I'm only paying $57.50 for 2 horses. Now all of a sudden I've got I got myself $40,000, $42,000 left for the other 8 horses to use. Yep. Now I can really spread around and use some nice, like really logical horses that feel like they're going to pick, they're going to hit the board or most likely winners.
Absolutely. So,
okay. Where you headed, Matt? You got a couple.
I'm headed to race 10. I'm going to the Silks Run Stakes, which is 5 furlongs on the turf. And I'm going to give you another pretty inexpensive play, which is the number 6 horse Belgrano, going off at 10-1.
Nice.
Only going to cost you $1,000. This horse going off at 10-1 and feels great. This horse has finished 3rd the last 2 times out in grade 3 races. That's not bad. If this horse finishes 3rd again, for $1,000, happy days.
Absolutely.
Because here's the thing, and this is something I try to talk a lot about on Twitter, but 200 characters is a tough amount of time to do it. $1,000 is 2% of your stable cost. If this horse gets you, and here's the crazy part, if this horse gets you 4th place points, that is actually about 5% of the points you need for a winning stable in StableDuel.
Yep.
So you're spending 2% to get back 5% points for 4th place. Like that's why you, me, and Barry talk all the time about value. You don't even need to catch winners with these. No. As long as they outrun their odds, you're going to be fine. If this horse gets 3rd again, that's 8% of the points you need for a winning stable. That's fantastic for a 10-1 horse. So I really like Belgrano. This horse is very consistent. He had a little bit of issues, 3 and 4 races back. He had really terrible trips, 7 wide one time. Just really atrocious trips. If you scratch those 2 off, he actually went off Lasix and started running a little bit better after that. But if you scratch those 2 off, I mean, this horse is incredibly consistent. 3rd, first, 2nd, 1st, 3rd, just incredibly consistent horse. 6 for 9 hitting the board with 4 wins at this distance. Race should also set up perfectly. There is a ton of speed in this race. And it's not just cheap speed either. It is the favorites who are going to be pushing themselves early. And so one of 2 things is going to happen. Either there's going to be a really hot pace out in front with the favorites, or some jockeys make decisions to hold their horses back. And now those horses are not getting the rides that they're usually accustomed to. And sometimes that's even worse, because if a horse is used to being on the lead and now is getting, grass kicked up, and
they're 5 off the lead, they're not used. They're not used to it.
That's not what they do, and they don't fire and they don't run as well. And so, like I said, I just feel like Belgrano, this race sets up perfectly. It's a mid-pack closer. Should be able to make one big move coming for home, and I just think this horse is kind of. I was high on this horse 2 back at the Tropical Turf, and it hit the board there. And so and it hit the board at a nice price too. Mm-hmm. And so I just think this is a really nice play. And the other thing is, if you look at this race and you go, I absolutely love the favorite Arrest Me Red, that's fine. Then go ahead, use Arrest Me Red for $8,500, but use Belgrano for $1,000.
Yep.
Double up. You have 2 horses for $9,500, which is below your average cost for
2 horses.
For 2 horses.
Yep.
And you might catch the exacta. And so, I just think this horse gives you a ton of flexibility in your stable.
Belgrano, a nice little 10-1 shot, only cost you $1,000 for Matt in the 10th. And then we go right back next door to the Hutchinson, right? For
no, the 12th. I'm sorry.
The
12th.
Okay,
the last
okay.
race.
So race number 12. Let's finish things off. Maiden 35 claimers going a mile and a 16th on the turf course.
Yep. So this is I kind of have 2 plays. I'm a little bit like you with the one with like Leviosa, or and so I think if you're a little bit more risky, you could go with the one who's I can't even pronounce the name properly. Yeah, sure, we'll go with that. And so, which is 12-1 for $750. This horse is doing a surface switch. I think I typically am a little bit more cautious. I usually like to play second off the surface switch with an upgrade in class if it goes well. But if you're like playing surface switches, I think this one is not a bad one to use. There's a little bit of grass pedigree. The horse is getting blinkers, which should be useful from the inside post. So I do like this horse quite a bit in this spot. But like I said, that's maybe a little bit more of a risky play. The one that I'll go with is the number 6, Dunnigan. This is a horse that's also 12-1 for only $750. One of the things to point out is none of the horses in this race are overwhelming. None of the horses in this race have really turned in a lot of strong performances. There's nobody who's really knocking on the door, so to speak. So this is one where it's pretty wide open, which is typically what you see with the last race of the day on a lot of cards. This is a horse that, the maiden was a 50 buyers, which is about as good of a maiden as anybody, or, good of a debut speed figure as anybody in the field has. It was also a mile on turf. Some of these horses are stretching out to over a mile or a mile for the first time, going from sprint to route. This is a horse that showed it could route. And I think this horse, what happened last time, breaking from the far inside post position, that horse needed to get hustled up, and they really used a lot of early speed to get this horse out on the lead to make sure it didn't get shuffled back. What happens? It's first time out, horse gets really pressed hard in the beginning, horse tires down the stretch. That's not a surprising MO to see. Now they come back pretty quickly, which I think is a real positive that they're bringing this horse back so fast. And I think this horse is a much better post position this time, breaking from the middle. I think this horse will actually let some other horses go to the front, might sit more of a stalking trip. And I just think this horse is, it's interesting. This horse also, the connections are kind of the sum of the parts are greater than the individual pieces. Yeah. Because if you look, it's fascinating. The trainer's winning at a 12% clip. The jockey's winning at an 8% clip. But when they team up, they win at a 22% clip. Yeah. So there's clearly something there. When they team up, there's a nice ROI and a nice win rate. This trainer also, one of the big stats that he does have, 29% maiden second starts. We talked about it earlier with the one race out at Santa Anita. Knowing where to place a horse the second time out. And the fact that, you're winning 29% maiden second starts, that's a really strong percentage. So I like that quite a bit. Just think Dunnigan in the last race is a nice play for only $750.
So that is Saturday over at Gulfstream Park. It reminds me of some of my other favorite horses, like Doulahan.
Oh, yeah.
Dunkirk. And here comes Dunkirk. Couple with Dunnigan here for Matt, trying to close out the Gulfstream Park card on Saturday. Matt, let's close out our show with a little Santa Anita for Saturday. I've got 2 horses to look at on the Saturday card over at Santa Anita. Do you have 1 or 2 over there?
I have 2 as well in races 3 and 5.
3 and 5 for you. I'm going in the 4th and the 7th. So why don't you lead us to the 3rd race and tell us where we're off to?
Beautiful. Why don't we head to the 3rd race, which is a $50,000 maiden claimer, 6 furlongs on the dirt. I like the number 1 horse, Admiral Eisbach, at 8-1 for $3,000. This is, first of all, this is only a 7-horse race, so it's not a huge field. Sometimes I think from a value standpoint, you try to find those races because even if the horse doesn't do great,
they're still going to pick up some points.
Exactly. They're probably going to finish 4th or 5th and get you some positive points. So I don't hate that. Ran 5th last time out, kind of flattened out a little bit, but that was also coming off a decent layoff, about a 6-month layoff. So I think one of the things we both like to play oftentimes is second off the layoff. Yep. So I think this horse you would expect to see a little bit of a step forward. Finished well ahead of the number 2 previously, who's actually 9-2 in this race, Tizzy Twister. So the fact that this is a horse that outfinished one of the closer to the favorites was positive. Picks up Joe Bravo for this ride, so I like that. I just think this is a horse that at 8-1 for $3,000 gives you some nice value in a field where there's really not a lot of overwhelming speed. No. There's really not a lot there that jumps off the page. So for $3,000, might as well take a shot there.
Yeah, it's got a really nice. She has a very nice profile, like a template, like you were saying. Speed in the debut, and then career start number 2, she flashes speed, but she fades, and then she's gone to the bench, so we can excuse that race.
Yep.
And then we can come back and excuse her last race. But what we got out of it was she still showed some of that. Here we go. She still showed some of that speed. Sometimes you got to say it real slowly, like phonetically. Just don't let the phrase beat you. There,
Use your words. Use your words.
Exactly. So yeah, you toss the last two.
Yeah.
You expect some improvement second off the bench. You've got the inside draw, so take advantage of that and use your speed.
Yep, absolutely.
Don't have it be a hindrance to you. Use it and just get out there early, save the ground. I like that. Admiral Oshbach in race number 3. And I hope that in race number 4, I'm going to be forwardly placed also. I think I might have given this horse out on this show or one of our streams that we did before last time. I'm talking about the 3, Funny Feline. So Funny Feline, first off, let's look at her 3 races. I think she's going to be pretty happy to not be facing increased stakes, right? Because she's run into that rival in all 3 races. And so she was behind Rose Dawson and increased stakes in career start number 1. Rose Dawson, ooh, little Titanic there for you. So Rose Dawson is nice. She came back and she won the Cal Cup Oaks in her second start. That's a nice animal. Increased Stakes, who was second in that race. Look what she did. She came back. She finished 3rd, and then she's won 2 in a row since. Yep. So she's sharp. The race frustrated me a little bit. So let's watch the replay, because Funny Feline was in post 10, and I played her in this spot. And that's why I was a little frustrated. So go, right? Like, you're on the lead. Go on with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, go on with it. But instead, you end up getting caught wide all the way around. Like, try to clear off and cross over. And look who wins the race. Increased Stakes. The horse who's able to secure inside post. Funny Feline was in front of this horse. If she crosses over, Increased Stakes has to tap on the brakes and then get in that shuffled spot from inside. This trip, Matt, this trip is 1 for 85 billion on the turf. Yeah. Trying to sit 3 ride like this, it doesn't work. Like, you can sometimes do it on the dirt where you sit that 3 wide trip and it's okay. But on the grass, it just never works when you're wide like that. You have to either go and save ground. So right here, Funny Feline's done. Yep. Funny Feline's going to finish 4th in here. Now, to me, it's all about the trip. Johnny V jumps aboard today. Yeah. And I think if you break alertly and you just go, or not even that, if your decision to sit is going to be the decision from the beginning to where you grab a hold and you're choosing to sit, right? I'm just not a fan of the in-between. Go, and then you kind of sit, and then you kind of go again. It's just go or sit when you're indecisive and you're grabbing and I call it the in-between trip, because you don't know what you want to do. You're asking, but then you're stopping and then you're starting. If you're more decisive, either way, we can at least go, oh, they made a decision. The decision was right or wrong. Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah. You know? No, I agree. And I've in the very little bit I've actually ridden horses, when you send horses multiple signals, really back to back to back, it screws with their head. Do you want me to go or do you want me to stop? What do you want me to do? Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's like one of the first things you learn is, like, aside from like how to sit and hold the reins, like, you learn basically once you give a horse a signal, they're going to do that because that's what they've been trained to do. And when you start giving them a signal and they want to go, I mean, that's the thing, is when you're on the lead and you're breaking from the far outside, that's the whole point of getting the 10 post, is like you can get over. So I hear you. Hopefully that's one of the angles I've been playing a little bit at Santa Anita this year, which is when Johnny Velasquez kind of hops on a horse for the first time and it's getting a price. Yeah. And it's like, oh, this horse is going to get a good ride this time.
Well, so and the StableDuel, right? Like, I'd imagine this horse gets bet a little bit just off the Johnny V factor. Yep. So for a StableDuel standpoint, that this horse is 10 to 1 and only 1,000. Yeah. That feels like very nice, because I wouldn't be shocked this horse is 5 to 1 or 7 to 2. Honestly. Absolutely.
And for a trainer, Brian Corner, who we talked about earlier, very good trainer out there at Santa Anita. So
really good in this sense with young horses, precocious horses, lightly raced horses, just getting those horses ready to fire early on without a ton of racing. He's sort of the opposite of what we were saying with Carla Gaines. Right. The great thing that he always does is just getting horses ready to fire. Even if they're not as good, they will be fit and ready to go. And that's a different skill set, right?
It is.
Being able to do that in the morning with horses that aren't quite as classy, he can still get them ready to fire. That's just different skill sets, and he does a fantastic job with that. I'm always looking to play some of corner horses, like early 2-year-olds at Del Mar.
Yeah.
Because they're big prices. They're not going to be getting bet like the Baffert horses will or some of the other big name barns, but they're ready to fire. And maybe they won't be the Kentucky Derby horse at 3, but at 2, going 5.5 furlongs early on, they might be more precocious and ready to rock right then. So those are horses to keep an eye on. And you also want to keep an eye on that Rainbow Pick 6 mandatory payout on Saturday at Santa Anita. It starts right here in this 4th race. I'm going to be jumping on the Santa Anita YouTube and the Santa Anita social media later today after their races with a couple of guys from Santa Anita. We're going to break down the Pick 6 sequence for tomorrow. So we'll go through races 4 through 9 on the Rainbow 6 for Saturday. My next play, Matt, is in the 8th. Where's your other play?
I have 5. 5th race. And we'll go to, which is a 50,000 allowance optional claimer, N1X 1 mile on the dirt. And I'm going to go with the number 7 horse, Divine Armor, at 8-1 for $3,000. Yeah, this just feels like such a nice play. Yep. For a non-winner of 2 race, this is about as consistent of a horse as you're going to find. 6 for 8 hitting the board at this distance at a mile. 7 for 8 hitting the board at Santa Anita. Again, for a non-winner of 2, that's about as strong as a profile as you're going to find. Doesn't win a lot, but I mean, man, it's always right there. And an 8-1 for $3,000, that's a nice return. If you look 2 back, I'm willing to forgive that performance that was at Oak Lawn, with different trainer. And just, I'm willing to kind of put a line through that one 2 out. If you draw a line through that one at Oak Lawn, this is a really consistent horse. Also, is back with John Sadler's barn, has Juan Hernandez aboard, who's winning at a 20% rate. Like I said, very consistent speed figures and placement in terms of, hitting the board, as I mentioned. There also should be a little bit of pace up front.
Not a little bit.
There's going to be a lot.
So I think they're going to be flying.
Here, right? So 3, 4, 5, and 6, and the 8 should all want to get to the lead. Yep. So you're going to have a bunch of horses that are going to be forwardly placed and are probably going to wear themselves out. And Divine Armor is going to be sitting behind all of them in a perfect trip. So I just think this board is going to, everybody's going to come back to the horse. And I just really like I really like Divine Armor in this spot. I actually think this is probably my win bet for the day.
He's the only out there closer in this race.
Yeah, exactly.
The only one. Now, I do think I like the 1 a little bit because I think the 1 is going to choose to sit also. Like I have 1-7 as my top 2. I think the 1's going to save some ground from the inside. I wouldn't play the 1 in StableDuel as much, having to pay up. The 7 is absolutely the StableDuel play in here because there are versions of this race where the 1 does get aggressive. This horse has shown a little bit of speed. The 9, Affable.
Yeah.
I mean, they could get a little bit aggressive and not want to get forced wide and show speed from the outside. And now all of a sudden, everybody in this race is forwardly placed. And like you were saying before, when that happens in 2 or 3, so they're not going to line up 7 across the track. But when that happens, even if they do line up 3 or 4 across the track, the 2 of those horses that might be shuffled or in spots that they're not used to, give me Divine Armor, who is used to this, who is used to taking back, making 1 late run and picking up the pieces late. If you're playing in the Rainbow Pick 6, don't leave that horse out. Because you may look at and go, just 1 for 14. This horse likes to finish 2nd and 3rd. A lot of times with horses like that, it's because of their running style. It doesn't mean that they're like they're a horse that doesn't want to win. It doesn't mean that they don't have a lot of heart or fight. It just means that if Divine Armor is in short fields, because he runs in Southern California a lot, anytime he's in a race where he catches a horse that's got more speed than him and it's a field of 5 or 6, he's screwed. He's got no shot. He's never going to win those races because he's just going to be late on the scene, picking up a piece for 2nd or 3rd. I bet a horse last week just like this. the horse was named Beachgrass.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Maiden, that won against Winners, remember? And it was like the same exact kind of reasoning. It was that this horse doesn't lose races because he's not good enough. He loses races because of the race shape with his running style. And this race on paper feels like one where he actually may be able to be getting the advantage of the race shape versus 90% of the time when he's at the disadvantage of the race shape. So win or lose, I love this one for you, Matt. I'm all over Divine Armor with you. I think it's a great call in race number 5. My final Santa Anita play for Saturday will come in race number 8. We're going to go down the hillside turf course for the Irish O'Brien. And we will see an undefeated Becca Taylor, who is 6 for 6, Matt. I respect the heck out of this filly. What's so cool, she's won on Low Sal on the dirt, on the Santa Anita turf, on the Santa Anita dirt, and on the Golden Gate synthetic.
Yep.
All different surfaces.
Yep.
My major worry, though, with her a little bit is we've never seen her go we've seen her go 6.5, but not down the hill. So we haven't seen her go 6 in like this layout that plays a little bit more like a mile. You know, it plays a little longer. 2, she's drawn down towards the inside. So those are some concerns. Now, she's probably the one to catch because there isn't that much speed. But if maybe I Will goes, then she could get kind of caught up.
Yeah.
So I respect the heck out of her, but there's no way I'm spending up and playing her in a stable duel situation.
Yeah.
I like the 7 in here. She's devoted.
Yeah.
So this is a 5-year-old mare who we've watched a few times now. And I love playing horses like this where, so she's 5, she's only raced 6 times. She's obviously had some physical issues because every time she races, there's a running line, there's a layoff line, right? She debuted back in January of 2020. Then she was off for 10 months. Then she raced. Then she was off for 3 months. She raced in January. She was off again till the end of November. It was like that Spider-Man meme. Am I looking at me? You? What? It's the same thing. What? So, and then she goes the same thing. November, she returns in January. The January race, to say she had a tough trip on January the 15th would be kind. It was just not a great, she just didn't have a great trip. And the race came back very live.
That's a really nice field.
Very, very live. The winner of that race, Legs Galore, came back to win the Buena Vista. Legs Galore has won 3 out of 5. And the 2 races in the 5 that she didn't win was a stakes and a second in the Wilshire. But she's also grade 2 winner. How about Alice Marble, who came out of that race to win the Wishing Well? So a super live race that she's devoted comes out of. That was 2 back. And the runner-up effort going a mile last time out is the one that I wanted to show. So she's devoted is the number 9 in here. And she's devoted. She's kind of like a step slow out of the gate there. And she sort of like breaks outward. And then she moves up to battle. So she's battling for the lead, and it looks like she's going to get the lead, but she ends up having to press and battle. Kind of another situation where I would have liked to see if she would have cleared off, you know, but she can't, but she's not able to clear off in here. So she's going to be just going head up with Aloha Kitten for a lot of this race, which is not the easiest spot to be in. Like just same exact stride with the horse right inside of you. All the pressure. Now, down the hill, the outside draw where she's devoted is actually a major benefit.
Yep.
Because you can kind of pick out your spot. You're not going to be inside and getting shuffled. And it's not as much about going wide. So right here, you're wondering, is she tiring a little bit? Or are they backing off? They try to back off a little bit here with Joe Bravo. So I like that move. And then you re-engage. You go back to the lead and you put away the horse that was, down towards the inside here. Like you got Aloha Kitten beat now. Unfortunately, you're just going to set it up for horses coming from off the pace. Yeah. And this was going a mile. So like right here, I thought she was done. She's devoted.
Yeah. You would have thought. Yeah. Looking at this.
Battles the whole length of the stretch.
Yep.
I mean, she digs in. She keeps fighting. It looks like she's done, and she just keeps on battling. She gets the better. Oh, and look at how she loses. Oh, it looks like she fought off the horse from the lead.
Yeah.
Looks like she fought off the horses from the outside, and then the horse sneaks up in between and pings her right on the wire. That's a brutal beat. And that was going long, and that was against open company.
Yep.
That was against open breds. First level allowance. Now you cut back to 6.5. You're back in with Calabreds, and you're going to go third start off of the long layoff. She's never raced 3 times in a row before in her whole career.
Well, that's what I was going to mention. That's a real positive if you look at this. The fact that now she's gotten consecutive runs in her after all of these stops and starts means the horse is finally healthy. And again, she honestly, I was impressed that she didn't give in, because that was the first time she's ever run in back-to-back races on that short of a layoff.
She's
and she
never
was
gone a
stretching
mile.
out. And so that's incredibly impressive. And you would expect just nothing but improvement from there for this horse. So I like that play quite a bit.
She's devoted, drawn well towards the outside, down the hill. This is Saturday at Santa Anita in that Saturday Stakes race. Matt, buddy, I love talking with you every week, man. It's one of the highlights of my week. I really enjoy this show. I always have a couple horses that you lead me to that I end up using in some of my exotics. And a big thank you to Barry for helping us out. Barry had to go pick up Breezy.
Yep.
So there'll be
Got to do dad duty.
Got to do dad duty, and good luck to Barry with some of his plays today and throughout the weekend. Matt, my friend, you've been popping up more often with live stream stuff. I see you doing a great job there. You had a show last week that was talking all about the Kentucky Derby contenders, Triple Crown contenders stuff. So as we get closer, we'll have to team up. I know you were responding to a couple people on social media earlier today. Maybe let's plan out something in the next week or so where we do a show and we can kind of go through what the points list looks like and see where everybody is, and maybe where they're pointed for their final prep. We can do kind of like a check-in with everyone. That'd be kind of cool.
No, that'd be a lot of fun, because we're getting right there. I mean, this is kind of the breather, right? This is the breather in the backstretch right before the big stretch run the next 3 weeks, where you just have nothing but 100-point Derby preps coming up for the next 3 weeks. So should be a lot of fun. They're drawing the Louisiana Derby on Saturday. That's going to be a blast. That we'll get a sense of that field already. So yeah, excited to do that stuff. And this is between March Madness. I'm a huge golf fan, so you got the Masters coming up. You got the Kentucky, you got the Triple Crown, you got all these prep races. Man,
and
alive!
The timing of this
great
year,
time to be alive.
which was weird as all this is happening. Since football had a longer season this year, free agency is all happening right now, when normally it would have been a little while earlier. And then baseball, because their season and the strike backed up, we're getting all the free agency stuff. Like, I'm getting alerts on my phone every 2 seconds from like this trade, this game. Oh, there's an upset in March Madness here. Kentucky just went down. Freddie Freeman to the Dodgers. Oh my God. Like, I'm just all over the place, which is what we love as sports fans. And the next couple months, we'll be heading to that first Saturday in May, the Kentucky Derby. Matt Desantis, we're going to have many conversations before now and then over these next couple months. So I'm looking forward to picking your brain over the next 6 to 8 weeks and talking Derby. Folks, we'll be back here again next Friday. Stay tuned. I'll put out a tweet earlier in the week. I'm not exactly positive if we're going to be back at 10 next week or 11, but we'll be either at 10 a.m. or at 11. We'll send out a tweet early in the week to let everybody know, and we'll always be here with you Friday, getting you all set up for the weekend. Matt, my friend, you have a fantastic Friday and Saturday, and I'll talk to you real soon.
Thanks again, Gino. You do the same.
And folks, make sure you get your entries in and play, race, win. Let's hear some of those soothing sounds of Joey Cleveland.
Better, you want to spread your pony knowledge.